Recently, my husband spent quite a bit of money on this robot mower. To be fair, it has transformed our lawn from an out-of-control mess. He then suggested getting a much more expensive, larger version so he wouldn't have to mow our meadows on his tractor. I said that's not happening, and even if it did, you need more than one for the size of our meadows. So he went and bought two, and is now banned from using the credit card.
Okay, a pair of these does sound a bit extreme, but if they work as I hope they might, it may actually be money well spent. So this is the first of two boxes, and I'm going to open them and film it for the oddballs on YouTube that love to see anything coming out of a cardboard package. But if you find that as boring as me, don't worry, because I'm convinced it is just weird kids that watch those unboxing videos, so I'm just going to stick it up here somewhere and get on with the interesting bit. So over on the lawn, the Yuka MINI has been amazing. The grass has never looked better, and we do nothing to make it happen. When first invented, robot mowers seemed like a gimmick, but the reality is they now do a better job than doing it yourself, and you don't have to do it yourself. But the lawn is small and easy, and we have acres that isn't. And it's not just the time taken to do this that's the problem. So currently we cut the grass here with a combination of a flail mower on the back of the tractor and a brush cutter. And a recurring issue is not being able to use either because the ground is too wet. It's not too wet to cut the grass, but it is too wet to drive stuff on. We've also got some pretty big slopes here that the tractor especially doesn't like going on, no matter how wet or dry the ground is. And we have an invasive plant problem. Plants that are super easy to cut down, but if you don't stay on top of them, they spring back faster than we can keep control of. So what we need is something that is light enough to work on the ground, no matter how soft it is, will work in all weathers, doesn't mind steep slopes, and can work on an often enough basis that the invasive plants don't get a chance to come back and take over. What does that solution look like? It looks like this. As expected, came out of the box very simply. Looks like there's a lot of bits and pieces, but there really isn't. There is a charging station, an RTK antenna, and a couple of poles to stand it on, wires to hook them all together, and the mowers themselves. It looks like it is going to be as straightforward to get these up and running as the little one was. Over to the field. I'm surrounded by chickens at the moment, so you have to excuse the noise. It was easy to set up. I did it yesterday, it is now today. Now, on my phone, I already had the Motion app for the Yuka MINI, obviously, and its RTK unit. So on here, I just added two new mowers and the two new RTK units, which it found very easily. So that all got set up very straightforwardly. So details, our land here is 10 acres split down the middle with a stream. On this side, large field, and then lots of woods. And on the other side of the stream, the house, the gardens, paddock, and out the back, lots of sort of meadows and a bit more woodland. We're starting this side because it's quite close to the house and we have electricity here. And this is going to be a bit of a different approach than we took on the lawn. There it was very simple. We just told the mower what the perimeter of the lawn looked like, and then you just tell it, mow inside the perimeter. You can set up don't mow here zones and stuff, but it's pretty straightforward. We've got other things to worry about here though. So here's what we're dealing with. This area is around 2 acres. Now this has been fenced off for the sheep. They look after that. Over here is the start of our woodland. And this area here is the section that the robot will be looking after eventually. Right now though, this part is too rough and stony, and this area has a load of wood that needs clearing away first. So here is where the robot will start. But even this bit is not going to be straightforward. The grass here is long, the ground is uneven, and there are weeds and brambles in with the grass. This is a challenge way beyond the lawn and the front of the house. Still, I remote controlled it around the perimeter of what I wanted, cut, and then left it for 24 hours to see how it would do.
It is day 2 of cutting. It went out twice yesterday. I put it out once this morning. I've actually sent it out again now for a 4th cut. For no reason whatsoever. I've got the one on the lawn running at the moment. I just like the idea of them both going at the same time. It's been, so far, I mean, touch wood, absolutely foolproof. I was convinced it would get stuck somewhere and was quite accepting of that. I thought I'm going to have to help it. It's going to get stuck in this rough stuff over here, but it hasn't. What I have seen it do a few times is go into a tricky spot and then shuffle backwards and forwards, but it has always been able to get itself out. The cut is looking superb. We're at 65 mil, so 6.5 centimeters. The lawn, by the way, is cutting at between 20 and 30 mil, so you know, over twice as long here. Looking really, really good.
In fact, it was looking remarkably good. The long grass and weeds and lumps and bumps hadn't caused it any issues. Sending it out 4 times in the first day was probably a bit overkill, but it did get it in shape real fast. My expectation had been that the app would be pinging away to let me know that I had to go and rescue it from getting stuck, but all it was ever doing was telling me that it popped back to its charging station for more juice occasionally, and then when it was all done. So I set up a schedule on the app to mow 3 times a week at 1 PM and left it to it.
It's been about a week that the mower's been up and running, and it is working perfectly. It comes out on Monday, Wednesdays and Fridays. It's currently a Friday, so this side is all good. There is a little bit more work for it to do in some spaces. I've got to tidy up some areas to give the mower access to those, but they're not a big deal. Over here, very happy. The other side of the river, setting up today, and it's a much, much bigger task that it's got over here. The first problem was that we've got no power out here. We do have electricity 80 meters that way in the goat stable. So I've run an armored cable all the way down the lane, 100 meters of armored cable. The plan when the digger arrives next month is to dig a trench and bury this cable in the trench, but that can wait. For now, it's just lying on the floor. So out here, in a way, it is similar to the other side in that there is definitely some bits that the mower can crack on with right now. I think for today, I'm only going to be able to set it up to do a relatively small space. And even that, I'm wondering if it might be better to run the brush cutter over it first. So for now, this is the setup. The mower is just living in this little space here. There's no grass growing here because this is where a tree fell a few years ago and sat here until we cleared it recently. Okay, I've had a little look around. I think I'm going to need to get the brush cutter over here first. Here's the problem. This is thick, and I don't think that the little blades on the bottom of the mower are going to cut through it. The mower will definitely deal with it when it's small and just coming up as a young seedling. It'll keep control of it then, but the stuff that's already established now at 2 foot tall, I'm going to need to cut that down first.
So having given the grass the last manual cut I hope to ever give it, I programmed the mower's area. Setting these up couldn't be easier. You just use your phone to link to the robot with Bluetooth and steer it around the edge of its zone. If you then want to have no-go sections, you can add those, as well as things like paths where you want the robot to travel over them but not cut. And with that done, I set it off to complete its first cut. This was early July, and the plan was to film an update before August.
Right, those of you paying lots of attention are going to notice it is now October. Well, the original plan was to follow the robots regularly throughout the summer, but we ended up just way too busy with other projects. So we haven't done that. In fact, we've pretty much left them completely to it, and actually that might make for a better video, because in a way that's kind of the point of these things, that you can just leave them to it. So, going to take a little wander around and show you what they've been up to and we haven't. Okay, so let's start this side of the river first, because this is just an absolute success. So I was looking at the footage that we shot back in July earlier, and it reminded me what a state this was compared to what it now looks like. And again, we haven't done anything here. I literally haven't been up here in ages. Also, the sheep are keeping the grass down in here brilliantly as well. Sheep and robots, it is the future. All along here, there were ferns growing up through the grass. And exactly as I suspected, things like ferns and weeds and brambles just don't get a chance to become anything longer than 50 millimeters. They die. Only the grass is left. I have not had to come out and do anything to the robot once. This dealt with by the robot, and then this over here dealt with by the sheep. And when we moved in, this whole area here was an absolute mess. Now, this area here has remained a bit of a mess. The robot does trundle over the very edge of it down here, hence it's been kept short. The plan next year, we're going to get a thing called a stone barrier. It goes on the back of the tractor, which will allow us to flatten it out and then reseed it, and the robot will look after it. The same on this patch down here. This is where we did some wood chopping, and it's just left the grass a bit, well, dead. Now, as we go down here, I recently knocked up this little garage for it. So it now lives on there. Looks a bit cooler than the plastic one. Now along here, so what used to happen here is the water would flood down off this field, run all across the area where I'm now standing. That fence wasn't there, and it would make this area here very boggy. Absolute mess. So when we had the fencing put in for the sheep, we had a ditch dug. When it rains, water absolutely flows down there like a miniature river. This ground here is now bone dry. The downside is that that work left the ground here a bit of a mess. So what we need to do is run our stone barrier machine, reseed it, and then the mower can basically have its area extended. So something else I'll show you as well. Right, let's stop it.
Task paused.
Look underneath.
The robot tilted. The front wheel lifted.
It's all still fine. Everything still spins freely. There's not that much grass collected underneath there. Clearly it's still working fine, cutting great. Those are the original blades, haven't changed the blades. You know, I just thought the whole thing was just too fragile. I thought it just won't tolerate really what we're putting it through. Grass, start.
Continue working.
And yeah, look at what it's running over. Stuff like this comes down all the time. And clearly if a massive branch comes down, it will start avoiding it and I'll have to come out here and shift it. But yeah, that hasn't happened. Twigs, doesn't care about. Acorns, doesn't care about. Could not be happier. Let's go to the other side of the river because things over there are a little bit different. Actually, I'm just going to pause here because this is the route that I go walking the dogs, and I'll often just pause here and have a look over there. On a day when I might have done nothing, work hasn't gone the way it was planned, to see that looking like that, yeah, it's just very, very cool. Right, let's look at what's happened out here. So if the front lawn is a good indication of how nice a lawn these robots will give you, then this is, as you'll see, a good indication of just what these things will tolerate. The problem we've had out here, it gets horrendously wet. We are in a valley here. It means all the water comes down here heading for the stream that's now behind me. There's a ditch that runs in that tree line. That ditch floods. There's then another ditch straight in front of me here. That ditch floods. It means we have this little patch that remains reasonably dry, and we have a little patch at the top of the hill, dry. And that's where the robot has been able to go out and do an absolutely superb job. And I'm genuinely really excited about what's going to happen here next year, because one of the things that this field here, this meadow, was absolutely filled with were these dock plants. One leaf, huge. This meadow was absolutely filled with them when we moved in. And yet what's happened is, because the mower goes out and just chops them down constantly, they are very much on their way out. Actually, the meadow next door is a good example of what happens when it's not looked after. Now this is cut, or it was cut in the height of the summer using the flail mower, and they are everywhere out here. The plan is fix drainage. The robot will come in here and that will end up looking like this over here. And again, because I know people say, oh, you're sanitizing the wilderness, you're turning the countryside into a car park. We have acres and acres of land here. There's woods over there, can't even get into half of it. So these little bits of lawn, inverted commas, that we're making here are having a very, very minor impact on anything. When you look at our plot of land from the air, we are a little wildlife haven here of streams and meadows and woods, and yes, a couple of areas of plain old grass. Right, anyway, here's a patch that it can do. Going over here, super wet. Can't do that. Although incredibly, what it was doing until recently is it was going across this pretty much every day to get back for juice. I don't know how. And it was getting up there without any real drama. I mean, if you're using a robot on land that is more rough than this, you probably need your head testing, getting exhausted walking up the bloody hill. So the plan is to get into that ditch. Water comes down that stream there. This is just solid debris that's built up over the years. That all needs to be scooped out with a digger, which is coming in a couple of weeks for me to play with. That will hopefully dry out all of this, and then all of this squelching underfoot can go onto the zone that it looks after. Now, this one is still in its little plastic garage, because the plan is to build a very simple pole barn shelter thing here. Be made of wood, look pretty cool. We'll build a little garage for the mower to sit beside it. Oh, I forgot to mention how these things here work. Obviously it's using GPS, but you know, if you've ever gone, as I have, if you've ever gone for a run and used a GPS watch, you'll know that, you know, it's accurate, but it's not pinpoint accurate, is it? And yet these things are literally to the centimetre going where they're supposed to go. The satellite is never day to day exactly the same. Atmospheric interference and stuff means that where the satellite, if it was satellite only, where the satellite thinks the robot is one day, might be whatever, half a metre different the next. Which if it's a GPS watch, you're going for a run or something, makes no difference. It just thinks you're on the pavement when you're on the road, and it's irrelevant. Here it matters, especially on the front lawn. It's going to fall in the river if it's out by half a metre. So the way it works is this. When you set up the aerial, the RTK aerial knows where it is and where the satellite thinks it is. The next day, if the satellite is telling the RTK aerial that it now thinks the RTK aerial is half a metre to the west, the aerial knows it hasn't moved because the aerial's clearly stuck in the ground. So it now knows that the satellite is half a metre to the west out. The RTK aerial then says to the mower, hang on a minute, mate, whatever the satellite said, half a metre the other way, because currently it's off by that much. I think, if that's not exactly how it works, I don't know, go watch a science channel. Don't watch me. Incredibly impressed and genuinely very, very excited as to how it's going to play out next year with these things. Get the drainage sorted and get them working nice and early in the spring. Have them deal with the weeds the minute they start coming up. Very excited. And of course, yeah, no grass clippings to deal with. Here's an interesting one. Paddock I have to mow myself because it's got goats in it, and goats don't eat grass. They eat weeds but not grass. So I have to run my little sit-on mower over this. This is a tiny little paddock. I've only done it a couple of times and I've got all that grass just dumped there. If you imagine the amount of grass that's been cut off those fields, and because it's done at a rate of millimetres or fractions of a millimetre a day, just rots down within 24 hours, you never see it. If I was collecting all that, I'd have dead thatch, dead grass everywhere, or a big pile like that to deal with. Not much here goes exactly to plan or better. But the robot mowers have done exactly that.
Okay, I admit it. They were a great idea. There's plenty of things around here we've wasted money on, but the robots aren't one. They're just doing their last mow of the year before they'll be stashed away for winter, and I cannot wait to see what they do next spring. Very excited. Still not getting the credit card back though.
Hang on, why not? Why? What's the problem? They worked exactly as I said they would. Please?